Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to a soulful morning once again. Welcome to our inward journey. Let's start this beautiful morning by going inwards, by being so grateful for so many things that we've been blessed with. First and foremost, our wonderful families, our friends, our loved ones who make life so beautiful with their presence, knowing that they're there for us, knowing that we're surrounded in a world of affection, of love, of care, of concern, whether we give it to them or they give it to us. It completes us. Let's be grateful for the warmth of our home, the four walls, room after room, the energy that each room contains. Every room has its own energy. In the TV room, you see TV. In the kitchen, there's food that's cooked. In the dining room, you eat food. In your bedroom, you sleep. Maybe there's another room where you meditate. Maybe there's a terrace that you sit in, or balconies that you enjoy. Maybe there are plants that make you happy. So many things in your life to be worth counting, to be grateful. So many things that are being enhanced. Let's be grateful for the wonderful bodies that we live in, which make everyday activities possible. Any disease that comes to the body limits our capacity to do something. But let's enhance the power of its being limitless, so that even if we age, the body is beautiful, young, vivacious, because energy is all that matters. Let's be grateful to our emotions. They show us a plethora of feelings, ups and downs. When we feel down, some part of the body starts hurting or goes into an uncomfortable zone, gets diseased. But emotions are what make us. They make us strong, they make us weak. As long as we're aware that we are emotional beings, we should be grateful for them. Let's be grateful for the food that we get to eat in our family, in our homes, wherever we go. So much of abundance of food. One can never be hungry. We are out somewhere, but wherever we are, there's always foods available. Let's be grateful for this wonderful world which is all there to give. I mean, let's tell ourselves that wherever we find that there is lack, it's because somewhere deep inside, there's something that we fear. And that fear becomes the paramount energy, giving us that lack. But let's also remind ourselves that our soul is eternal. It's lived so much in wars and starvation zone. It survived every knock and shock possible of life. And this is just one of the lives. So what are we so feared about? What are we so fearsome about? Fearful about? So let's leave that feeling of lack, of fear. Let's go forward in the direction of our life that we want to create with absolute trust, with the mindset that I can rule the world if I want to, with my love, with my light, with my belief. And I can live the best possible life that I've been blessed with without any limitations. Money is an energy which people have different relationships with. What is your relationship with money? Attract it. Say simple affirmations like, I am a money magnet. Wherever I go, prosperity turns. Prosperity follows me wherever I go. Whatever project I take up, I take it with my heart and soul. And then I become an alchemist. It becomes gold. Because Lady Luck is with me wherever I go. in me, around me, surrounding me. My life is beautiful, fulsome, lovely, so worth living, so magical. Keep counting your blessings as to however they're coming your way. Let's be grateful to Mother Earth, to Ma Prakriti, showing us different weathers. Autumn when the trees shed, spring when the trees and flowers bloom. We also have a similar cycle in our body, right? The times that we're just shedding, letting go, letting go, letting go. When our bodies are gripped with fever, cold, flu, what are we being taught by Mother Nature? Automatically, we don't feel hungry. The body wants to starve. Letting go of the addiction to eating food. Relaxing and letting go of the feeling that I must do this, I must do this, I must do this. Physically, we're incapacitated. Mentally, emotionally, also, we're supposed to relax and chill. The world will not fall if I don't work. This ease tells you that it's time to get easy. You're taking life too seriously. Life is meant to be lived, to be enjoyed joyfully, happily. So what happens? We get stuck in the surrounding, in how it unfolds. Important to remind ourselves that whatever happens, whenever it happens, it has a rhyme or a reason. It is not pointless, it's not worthless. There are no coincidences just like that. They're happening for a reason. Magical synchronicities are happening to show us a signal. Are we open and receptive to those signals, to those guidances? Are we understanding the lessons within knocks and shocks? And are we avoiding them to happen again? By being tuned in. Where are we? How are we? What's happening around us? Are things manifesting the way they should? Or no? Are we feeling awakened? Or are we still sleeping in the long sleep, whiling away our precious time? 1/3 of our life we are just spent in sleeping. Another 1/3 in procrastinating, doing what is not so important. But just because we are on autopilot mode of doing them. Now, 1/3 important precious time which we've been given, how are we spending? Ask ourselves, am I on the meditation path or not, or have I lost it? The good news is if I've lost it, I can find it again. If I've fallen off climbing the stairs to spirituality, I can again start step by step. Because every moment has a potential for me to grow. So let's be grateful to our life that presents us with so many opportunities. Let's enjoy the flow of energy in our wonderful bodies. And feel the flow even entering that part of your body which is hurting, because you are whole and complete. Anything that hurts is again happening for a reason. Understand the message. It needs a break. It needs you to slow down. If you have a headache, it's a signal, stop thinking so much. If you have a stomach ache, start
fasting, the stomach is going through abuse, something hard has been given to it, it's not able to digest. So it's going in things. If your legs are hurting, it's because you're not being able to move forward in life. You're stuck in a rigmarole, in a loop. So start accepting that, okay, this is how this is. If it's not a good time, good times will come. I trust the process. Let me take a step and start moving. You may be feeling that I'm always there. Things are not changing. But then again, it's a lesson for us to be learned on a soul level. That, all right, this life has been given to me for struggling, for the situation to come again and again. And that situation is coming to me maybe through my parents, maybe through my partner, maybe through my children, maybe through my other loved ones. But this is how it is. Yes, at that time you will see the dark side. Allow yourself to see the dark side. If you feel you need to spit out something in your emotions, feel bad and talk about them, talk about it. It's okay to accept. In fact, denial leads things to get bottled and pent up inside you and manifest out as negative energy. So allow yourself to be. Allow yourself to live. Allow yourself to lead. Life is worth living, worth leading. It's a rare gift. And when you get time, connect deep within yourself. Ask your masters, angel, guardians, spirit guides, light beings. Am I walking on my life's purpose, on my soul's purpose, or no? If not, guide me. Help me understand. Help me download it. And very gratefully, let's bow our heads in gratitude. The divine beings. When ready, open your eyes for yet another refreshing morning of hearing of stories of healing, of progression, of regression. Dr. Brian Weiss in his book, Same Body, Many Souls. And today we're going to be reading about Chitra. So we are going to be reading about, I think the chapter was on empathy. Let me just go back. Compassion. So chapter number 5, compassion, second part. First part was about Hugh, and now second part is about Chitra. Chitra, 35, also gave compassion without reward. A molecular research biologist, she spent her days in the lab and her evenings with a sickly and demanding mother with whom she had lived for 10 years. There was no time for a social life, or indeed for a life of any kind of her own. She was the youngest child in an Indian family that had come to America when she was young. And given the Hindu tradition in which she was raised, she was expected to be the caregiver for her mother. Her brother and wife would not be expected to do this, nor could her married older sister, who had 2 children of her own. Chitra had been married to a much older man and arranged marriage, but her husband had died, leaving her with no children. As a result, the care of her mother fell to her. When she came to me, she complained that her mother's dependency and overprotectiveness was suffocating her. In fact, her breathing was labored and she had trouble getting out her words. Hindi was her first language, but she spoke fluent English, as did her mother. She dressed only in saris, except at work, when she wore jeans and sweaters under the lab coat. She was a curious and delightful mixture of two cultures. Though I doubt she was amused, it was older culture that kept her from enjoying the younger. Many Hindus believe in reincarnation, but for them it is an intellectual belief, part of the religion. Its use as a therapeutic tool is virtually unknown. Chitra may or may not have believed in past lives. She was reticent when I approached the topic. But she was ready. She readily agreed to regression. After 2 weeks of practicing relaxation hypnotic techniques, she was able to enter a moderate trance state. Her impressions were hazy and her words halting. I'm in India, a prostitute, but not really a prostitute. I traveled with the army which is fighting my enemies. I don't know what year it is. Not so long ago, I'm told that I'm needed by the soldiers. They're all important. It is my army, my people. They have to be cared for. I feed them, satisfy sexual needs. I hate what I have to do. I can see myself dying. I'm still very young, but yes, I'm dying giving birth to a child. That was all. In the life review, she realized she didn't want to linger in such a place. Helping the soldiers fight India's enemies was not a higher good at all. It was a convention devised by selfish and cruel men, and as a woman, she was trapped, doomed. Second regression was just as a brief. I'm a woman, sacrificial robes. I must be killing to ensure a good harvest. Maybe my death will protect my people from enemies, from natural disasters. I'm told it is a great honor to die, and I and my family will be rewarded in the afterlife. There's a sword over my head, it strikes. In both cases, she had trouble breathing, and each time I brought her back to the present. Chitra needed to learn from the lifetime, but not in great detail. She went straight to the traumas, and when we talked about them, she realized that violence is anti-ethical, antithetical to spiritual concepts. Promises of later rewards were self serving lies by the generals or religious leaders whose power was based on ignorance, deception, and fear. We discovered the link in the two lives and the relevance to Chitra's present situation. In both regressions, she had been forced to sacrifice her own life, her own goals, her own happiness for some higher good. And in effect, the sacrifice killed her as it was killing her now. Chitra's mom had a past life memory as well, though she never came into my office. Excited about her work we were doing, Chitra brought home my regression series and practicing at home, just as I encourage all her patients to do. Her mother, listening, saw herself as a young Indian wife 3 centuries ago. In that life, Chitra was her mother's deeply beloved husband, the focus of her existence. But soon the man died, probably from the venom of a snake bite. When Chitra's mother came back to the present, she understood that she had clung to Chitra, her daughter, and explained it to Chitra as a reaction to her loss centuries ago. Her mother's dependency and overprotectiveness. Chitra now realized had their roots not in the same lifetime but in a different one, and she was able to be more forgiving. Her mother began to change slowly, for she was overcoming years of habit. She became less clinging, less protective. She became more open to spending time with her other children, but she was even willing to let Chitra start a social life. Despite the possibility that it could lead Chitra into a relationship that would interfere with her dependency. This in turn led to an improvement in Chitra's outlook. For the first time, she could look forward without dread, and she let me lead her into the future. Chitra experienced what I took to be three futures living during a single progression. In the first, she saw herself as a mama and principal caregiver of a young child with severe muscular, skeletal, and neurological deficits. The family dynamic required Chitra to spend most of her time and energy on little girl with little Dern. My husband in that life had withdrawn emotionally and often physically. He simply couldn't deal with the tragedy. Thus, the flow of compassion, love, and energy seemed to me unidirectionally outward, Vichitra giving but never receiving. In the second future life, Chitra suffered severe physical injuries in a vehicle accident. You couldn't really call it a car, she told me. It was more like a giant flying cylinder with windows. Anyways, its programming malfunctioned with wham, I crashed head on into a tree. Chitra was paralyzed and had to receive extensive physical and psychological rehabilitation. Technical levels of medicine are advanced, she said with some satisfaction. But regeneration of my nervous system tissue, both brain and spinal cord, took more than a year. Mitra smiled. The hospital staff was superb, but recovery was very difficult. I'm not sure I would have made it without the love of my family. I have an adoring husband and two boys and a girl, and one of my friends and the flowers. People call my hospital room the garden of Allah. Here I thought was the reverse of the first life. Again, compassion, love, and energy were unidirectional, but this time they were flowing in. In third future, Chitra was a surgeon specializing in orthopedics and neurology. I work with rods or crystals, she explained when I pointed out how uncommon it was to have such different areas of expertise. They emit a light and energy that has a remarkable healing effect. Whether it be bones or brain, they also cause a sound energy that helps in the regeneration of muscle, limbs, and ligaments. Now, for the non believers in us, crystals are magical. The bigger, the better, the cleaner, the better. Wash them, energize them, work with them, find the crystals. Every crystal has a property. Something helps in something, something helps in something. And the stories of crystal healing is absolutely magical. Crystals absorb negativity. Crystals need to be cleaned, just the way our bodies need to be cleaned when they're unwell, because by going with medication or whatever, crystals are magical. Please enjoy the world of crystals. It's really beautiful. The more you surround yourself with the right crystals, the more energy will start flowing in. They're like energy that if your batteries are dead or less, they will charge your batteries. They are magical. Chitra told me that she reviewed the third life from a higher perspective, meaning that she had risen to a new level. She was still in a hypnotized state when she said this, but then she suddenly stopped. I don't know how this life is going to end. It's puzzling. I just have to leave it. Now, as always, she was not one to linger in past or future lives. Suddenly, she was back in the present, animated, stimulated by her voyages. All the lives past and present are connected, she explained, as in this life and past life, my mother described. What I've got to do is balance compassion, balance love, which must be received as well as given. Her determination was palpable. My life's goals will never be sacrificed again, not because of cultural values, individual circumstances, or guilt, she said. She was able to express her anger and resentment towards her mother and her siblings for trapping her in the caregiver role. Despite the cultural taboos prohibiting such rebellion, by doing so, freed herself. She went back to the third of her future lives, and this time she was able to see its end, death at an old age of natural causes. In her life review, the significance that eluded me became clear to me. The three future lives weren't sequential or linear, she explained. They are manifestations of the probable futures based on what I do in this life. In a sense, they were parallel futures that flowed simultaneously. The one she ended up in would stem from the content of the remainder of her life now. In fact, there was a multitude of possible futures, she told me, all variations of the three I witnessed. And it's not only my consciousness, but the collective thoughts and actions of the entire human population that will have a role in shaping the one that turns out to be the actual one. If we consciously embrace compassion, empathy, love, patience, forgiveness, the whole world will be incredibly different than if we don't. Her language had changed markedly. She no longer spoke in short, choppy sentences. Her more sophisticated words and ideas reflected a connection to a higher level of consciousness. This wise young woman had much to teach me. We have much more power to positively influence our individual future lives as well as the remaining future of our present life than we do to influence the planetary collective future. And this line is so deep, so beautiful, so relevant to all of us. We do not even realize how much of power we're sitting down with. And this beautiful power can be so positive, so wonderfully nurturing. And if we start living with the virtues that we are again and again and again guided by, then the planetary influence changes. The collective consciousness changes because you who are evolved will attract the people who are evolved. And together you will create a beautiful future because most of you will be connected with compassion, with empathy, with love, with patience, with guidance, with forgiveness, and so much more. But our individual futures express themselves in the collective future. And the actions of everyone will determine which of a myriad possible futures we will come back to. If Chitra continued stuck in a present family pattern, then she might have to experience a future as the paralysis victim forced to receive love. If you just gave up, abruptly ending a relationship with her mother, abandoning her without a reasonable compromise, she might have to come back as a mother of the seriously impaired child because that is how it works. We face similar situations again and again as we seek to learn the proper balance between giving and receiving, between sacrificing compassion for ourselves. Until we achieve the state of harmony, given what she had learned, and having recognized that balance, Chitra would come back as an orthopedic neurological surgeon, but she would be born into a world of more or less violence, more or less compassion, and loving, depending on the harmony others attain. If enough of us can somehow elevate the consciousness of humankind, if we can commit to changing the collective futures by improving our individual futures, we can actually change the future of the entire world and its inhabitants. So, my dear friends, let's look around us. What companies are we in? What consciousness are they resonating with? Please be very mindful, heartful, that if you are a caregiver, if there are too many elders in your family, or even if one elder in the family and you're only giving, 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 and you're not receiving, then you will be forced to have a life where you will be receiving. Maybe you'll be incapacitated with one uh, body part not being there. Maybe you'll be born handicapped. So please avoid that right here, right now, by making your batteries full with love. Whatever makes you feel loved, do it. So that whatever love you're giving out, empathy, compassion you're giving out to the person that you're healing and caregiving, let that not come out of your mind with the space that, oh, I have to do it, or I don't like to do it, but I have to do it. And that is happening because you're not liking, you're not loving. So feel the love, whatever makes you feel loved. And your love is something that you will realize what is your love. Give yourself what you love. Some people crave to grow and learn and evolve. If that makes you happy, do that. Some people love spending time with Mother Nature, and that should be there for everybody. Mother Nature heals. If you can't go out in Mother Nature, bring her in your house, in your indoors. There are indoor plants, tend to them, work with them, feel the energy. Bring home crystals to help you heal. Maybe wear some crystals which touch your body. Healing is so, so important. Compassion is, as I've said, related to empathy. It's also related to love, in that it comes from the heart, just as love does. 3 simple exercises will help you reach that place in your heart where compassion, empathy, and love coexist, as will the psychometric exercise I provided in chapter number 3. So now, again, it's time to meditate. So I'll request everyone to be with me and close your eyes. Relax. When you are in a relaxed state, remember a time in your life when a tear of joy came to your eye. You may remember several times. Allow yourself to remember. It's not talking about some materialistic gain, or you talked about India winning the World Cup or some kind of lottery coming to you. No, it means a time which is something loving in your life has happened. It could be a moment when someone unexpectedly did a good deed for you. They volunteered to take care of your children while you could go on a holiday, or look after them when you were not well. It can be a time when you did something good for somebody and now the result is coming back to you. Feel the love and the emotion that's flowing. The point is that the giver, which is you or a friend or a stranger, acted out of compassion with no expectation of reward. Enhance the compassionate quotient in your body, in your heart. The more you will practice, the more you are inviting compassion into your being. And that is a beautiful healer. The more compassionate you will become, the more emotional you will become. And you will see that you become attached to something that you're seeing, and you'll start tearing up easily. Maybe just drop one tear or maybe many tears because you're connecting with things on a compassionate level, and that's beautiful. By bringing compassionate memories freshly into your consciousness, you will increase your capacity for joy, for happiness, for further acts of compassion. I'm going to take you further and telling you to again check on your relaxation level. You may have seen a lot of compassionate moments as you were hearing the guided meditation. You may have gone through them and you may wish to expand them more. So work on yourself every day for a couple of minutes. Doesn't have to be long. But now I'm going to take you further. You're still relaxed. Your eyes are still closed. And yet you're looking into someone's eyes. Closed eyes, but yet you're looking into it. Now, if you see the person looking back at you, that is this everyday event, go deeper, look beyond what lies at the surface of the person's eyes. Try to see the soul looking back at you. And if you find that soul, you will see there is so much more depth in that person than just a physical body. You'll know that all people have a soul, just as we do, and that the souls are connected. If you see your own soul looking back, you'll have reached a deeper level because you'll see that we are all one. We are all made from one substance or one soul. And if this is so, how can we not feel compassion? How do we treat others humanly? And why are you not treating yourself humanly? Because you deserve compassion. You deserve love. You have only been giving love, compassion, empathy to others. What about yourself? What about loving yourself, treating yourself well, giving yourself what you want to give to the others? Now, the minute you do that, put your hand on your heart. And with the blessings of the light beings, feel that your heart is being filled and fulfilled with so much of love, so much of joy, so much of compassion, so much of empathy, so much of kindness, so much of love. Love just flows. You can invite Mother Teresa or Dalai Lama, whoever relate with, or Sai Baba, whoever, and feel the hands are their hands, blessing you with the blessings that you need to add to your heart. Now, after having received this love and this empathy and the compassion and the kindness and whatever you felt, let's further go to the next level. Now, just relax again. Now, let's visualize humanity of other people, friends, family, strangers. They're not just a name or a trait. Somebody could be incessantly talking. Somebody could be dirty. Somebody could be fat, thin, good, bad. We put labels. But humans are multidimensional. Each person is made up of complex of factors, just the way we are built. We have layers and layers and layers of existence. Everybody has parents, everybody has children, whether in this life or the other, and loved ones. It doesn't matter what country they are from, who are their friends, who are their foes, it doesn't matter. Each person has experienced joy in some time or the other, fear, love, anxiety, despair, sorrow, exactly, and you and I have. Everybody has been a child once. They've laughed, they've played, they've probably had pets. Maybe they've gone to zoos, they've had the games, they've been trusting. Children trust their parents. So visualize as much of this love flowing. It's very important to visualize that if you hate or you're angry at someone, visualize them also right now. Start and realize the lesson that's meant to be learned. Who is this anger and hatred going towards? You have played so many roles with this person that you're angry with in so many lives, and you're carrying a trauma bonds with you. So, right here, right now, detach yourself by cutting a cord close to your heart from that person. You'll be able to feel these cords. Cut them off. Just cut them off. People have experienced births and deaths, victories and tragedies. Try and see the details if you get to see any. By doing so, you're not just seeing them as a group, but as individuals who have experienced everything that you have experienced. It's easy to hate group exercises, but who don't have individual qualities. But if you start seeing people around you in a crowd and start seeing closely, your hate for a particular person will become lesser. And replace it with compassion. Everybody has a soul. You have lived that life, they have lived your life. Now take back with you today compassion, empathy, which aren't learned overnight. They are virtues to be inculcated, they are lessons to be learned and to be evolved. Simply learn these simple life lessons, and these will help you to create yourself into a wonderful being and help you ascend towards immortality. So be patient and gently open your eyes. And let's begin this chapter number 6, where we will understand about Paul's journey of patience and understanding. The Buddhists have an expression, don't push the river, it will travel at its own speed anyways. For purposes of spiritual evolution, it helps to envision time as a river, though we should measure it not chronologically as we do now, but in lessons learned on our road to immortality. So don't push the river of time. You're just going to splash around impotently. Because if you can thrash against the current flow peacefully, impatience robs us of joy, peace, and happiness. We want what we want, and we want it now. Nowhere is this more evident than in 21st century America. But that's not how the universe is engineered. Things come to us when we are ready. Before we are born, we look over the landscapes of life to come, only to forget it after birth. We hurry in the present, worrying only about fixing it now. But as adults in our present lives, we should recognize there is a right and a wrong time. For example, why did Catherine turn up in my life that year and not 2 years earlier or later? And why, when I asked her about the future, did she say, not now? After Only Love is Real, my book about soulmates came out, I received a letter from a woman that read, when I met my soulmate, but now I'm married. I have 3 children. He's married and he has 2 children. Why didn't we meet when we were teenagers? Because destiny had a different plan. They were supposed to meet later. People come into our lives at certain times for various reasons, having to do with lessons to be learned. It's not a coincidence that they didn't meet at a much earlier age when they did not have other commitments. The people meet later to learn about love in different ways and about how to balance this with responsibility and commitment. They'll meet again in a different lifetime. They must be patient. One woman patient committed suicide in the earlier life because her husband, a sergeant in World War One, was listed as missing in action, and she was sure he was dead. In fact, he had been taken prisoner and returned to America after the war, only to discover the fate of his wife. In her life of the one following, this woman will learn patience if she remembers the lessons of the past one. Taking your life is not, it's not in your hands. Your soul has chosen the exit and the entrance. You cannot cut it short. If you're going through a lot of problems, be patient. If you're bedridden and receiving care, doesn't matter. Be patient. You have to learn. You have to be able to learn to receive because in last life, you were only giving, 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 giving. So you had to complete the cycle. Dr. Brian Weiss says, friends of mine, high school sweethearts, went separate ways into unhappy marriages. When they met again 40 years later, they had an affair, divorced their present spouses, and married. It was as though no time had elapsed. The same feelings were there, same intensity. I did regressions with both of them, and they were together in past lives as well. This coming together of people late in life who have been together in a past life happens a lot. Psychological patience rather than physical patience is the key. Time, as we measure it, can go fast or slow. Tom Brady, the quarterback for the New England Patriots football team, thinks a minute is more than enough than in just to engineer the winning score. When I'm stuck in the traffic jam, it seems like eternity. But if we internalize time as an endless river, it is an impatience disappears. I don't want to die yet. A patient tells me there are many more things I need to do, yes, but he'll have infinite times in which to do them. Patience is related to understanding because the more you understand a person or situation or experience or yourself, the less likely it is that you'll have a knee jerk reaction and do something hurtful to yourself or others. Let's say your spouse comes home and yells at you for some minor infraction. Perhaps you forgot to walk the dog or buy the milk. The impatient response is to yell back. But the be patient, understand maybe the anger coming at you has nothing to do with you. It's a result of a bad day at office, an oncoming cold, a migraine, an allergy, or even a bad mood. As a spouse, you are the safe person he or she can vent at you, knowing that nothing serious will happen, even if you flare up in return. But if you're patient, you might get at the cause of the anger and dissipate it. If your response is a patient one and you understand that there is a hidden reason behind the explosion, then it is of no great trick restoring harmony. You will need the ability to detach. Understand this very clearly. We are too attached to our loved ones and we are making them claustrophobic. Learn to let them lead their lives on their own. Your over care, over protection may become detrimental to their flow, to their success. So learn the ability to detach, to see from a distance, to achieve a higher perspective to what you're doing. In future chapter, we will learn about meditation, contemplation, and the handmaidens of patience, for they help you achieve distance. As you develop the ability to be quiet, to be introspective, and to listen, patience inwardly develops. So listening is quality we can all develop. When people are saying something rather than immediately giving a response, learn what they're going to say after that pause that they've had. A pause doesn't give us a license to now start talking. Listen, tune in. Don't become jumpy. Don't start giving your lectures or what you think. Some people just need to be listened. And here I want to share a personal experience. My daughter, who's 21 now and this month, she was saying something and my husband started giving her his piece of advice or what he thought. She said, Papa, I know it. I'm just sharing this with you because I want you to listen. I don't want to say this to somebody else who may get hurt. So just please listen to me. Listening is an ability and art. Develop this. And when you are able to listen outsidely, you'll be able to listen insidely. Then downloads will come easy. Then connection with your soul will come easy. And dialogues with your soul will come so easily because you've begun to become a listener. As we develop the stability, the ability to be quiet, to be introspective, and to listen, patience invariably develops. Now, if nations were more patient, there would be fewer wars because there would be more time for diplomacy, for dialogue, again, for understanding. Nations rarely strive for patience, but people should. If you train yourself to be patient, you will recognize its importance when it arrives and make progress on the spiritual path towards immortality. Sometimes, however, you may have to wait until you see the future to fully recognize its power. Paul had money, no doubt about that. He had made a fortune in copper gutters for seaside residences. He had also invested wisely. But as he told in our first session, his money was doing him no good, and he felt like a failure. His 22-year-old daughter, Alison, had leukemia, and her chance of recovery were, as he put it, slim to none. His money could pay for his best doctors, best drugs, best advice, but not for miracles. He was frequently depressed and saw his life as useless despite his monetary success. Usually, I can take a patient's history in one session or less. With Paul, it took two, not only because his history was complicated, but because he was so reluctant to give it. He was 50, tall, fit, silver-haired, silver-tongued. His blue eyes looked at me with openness at once sees in people with nothing to hide or in con men. In Paul's case, I suspected the latter. It turned out he was coming himself, not me. Sorry, in fact, it turned out that he was conning himself, not me. His smile was broad, his teeth white and perfect, on a perfect tan face, his nails professionally manicured. He wore a white Ralph Lauren polo shirt, tan slacks with a knife edge crease, and enviable leather sandals. I'm not sure I should be here, he said as we shook hands, and I got my first hit of those eyes. Many people feel that way, I said. Psychiatry can seem forbidding. Who wants to reveal his soul to a stranger? Besides, people think incorrectly that there's a touch of the occult in what I do. Occult? Exactly. And forgive me if I'm rude, the business of taking people into their past lives? Weird, I agreed smilingly. It took me years to believe that some patients were somehow making up their stories, despite all evidence to the contrary, but I assume that I had no occult powers and that even if some of my patients were fantasizing, they still got better. Now he seemed to accept this, for he nodded and sat down across me, talked about Alison. I'm afraid my wife, my other daughter, and my son, all three of them together, are sabotaging her treatments. He said, more distraught than angry. In what way? Alison is a vegetarian, but then she needs meat to keep her strong. Instead, my family encourages her to take mega vitamins and minerals and Jesus, tomatoes and wheat germ. She's into yoga and meditation too. I suppose that's all right. Can't hurt her, but they want me to join the party. They're simply taking a holistic approach, I said mildly. But yeah, I want them to join mine, which is aggressive meditation, aggressive medicine, radiation, chemo, the works. Isn't she getting these? Sure, she is. My insistence, I'm calling their shots. But to waste her time with other nonsense, to think it's going to cure her, it's insane. I asked her to stop it, but she wouldn't. He lowered his head to his hands and massaged his eyes. She's disobeyed me from the time she was a toddler. What about your other kids? Were they disobedient too? Nah, good as gold. Everyone were. My wife too. Always will be. I was developing quite an admiration for Alison. Her disobedience sounds like spunk, I thought. She's probably the only one in the family who has stood up to him. Maybe he's so upset because others are taking her side for once. There's a great debate about holistic medicine, I told him. Can't great societies such as Chinese put their faith in it? They believe it's acupuncture. Practically shouted. She's trying that too. And the kids, yes, and my wife too, are letting it happen. I believe that some sort of holistic medicine is effective, particularly when used in conjunction with the orthodox medical treatment. As long as she's getting the proper medical treatment, why be uptight about it? Hope you know is a factor in recovery. If she thinks acupuncture is helping, maybe that is value enough. I suppose so. I wondered if he would return, but he was back for an appointment 3 days later, this time with a new complaint, her boyfriend. And you object? I certainly do. Why? He isn't good enough for her. None of them are. He won't stay for the long haul. I was beginning to see a pattern. What does this think of you? She loves me, I suppose. Only suppose? I thought for a while before answering. It's funny, I feel awkward around her. I can't tease her the way I used to tease the other kids. When I used to hug her, maybe the other way around, I seem to freeze. Yet you love her. My God, yes. Have you told her? I don't seem to be able to find a way. We're always squabbling. She says I pick on her, but I'm trying to do is make sure she's safe. What about her other boyfriends? Hopeless. How so? Not smart enough. No oafs, really. All testosterone and souped up cars or nerds, too smart, no balls. Actually, Phil is the best of them. He did show up at the hospital the last time she had to stay over. None of the others would do that. The last time he visited, I told him not to come back. Was that the first time you said it? To his face, but I told Alison she won't see him again. But she was disobedient. Don't you think it would be given her pleasure to go on seeing him after all she doesn't get better? Yeah, after if she doesn't get better then. He interrupted. Stop right there. God damn it. I'll make sure she gets better, even if I have to die in her place. After the 2 sessions of history taking and discussions, I was eager to look deeper at Paul's relationship with Alison. Something accounted for his overprotective behavior towards her and towards himself. Perhaps the answer lay in a past life. He resisted at first, but finally, with his family's blessings and encouragement, and because Alison was so ill, he agreed. It took longer than usual to hypnotize him because of his active left brain and his need to stay in control, but eventually he reached a deep level. It's 1918. I'm in Northern City, New York or Boston. I'm 23 years old. I'm a very proper young man, following my father's career as a banker, and I'm in love, wildly in love with the wrong girl. She is a singer and dancer, a real stunner. I've talked to her occasionally after the show, but I've never revealed my feelings. I know she's. Oh, it's my daughter, Alison. A look of incredulity spread over his face. He sat silently for a moment, remembering. Then he said, I've talked to her, told her I love her, and blessed day she loves me too. Can you believe it? She loves me too? I know my parents won't approve, but it doesn't matter. I'll defy them. She's everything to me. Once more expression changed, he grew sad. She died. Died in the epidemic, and with her death, our dreams died too. I've lost all joy, all hope, all pleasure. There will never be another love like ours. I asked him to go slightly forward in that life. He saw himself as a dour, angry man. Old at 40, blind, drunk, he drove his cars off the road and died. I brought him back and we discussed the connection the past life had to present. Two patterns emerged. One involved magical thinking. In this life, if he didn't tell Alison he loved her, she would be safe. She won't die as she had in 18. The second was a counterphobic mechanism, the same impulse that she makes someone quit if he thinks he's about to be fired. In Paul's case, it meant that if he kept an emotional disease from Alison, he would be protected from pain, grief, and despair. If he should lose her, so he backed away from her, picked fights, criticized constantly, and interfered with her boyfriends. Her current illness made him relive the panic he had felt nearly a century earlier. He knew who said as he left my office that as part of a treatment, he would have to confront his fears and avow his love. Avow his love. Some part of him understood that the body-mind connection, well known to immunologists, had been validated. Paul's fears were already eased slightly because he had lost Alison before and had suffered for it. Both had died, yet both had come back to this life. He was still distraught at the probability of her death, but he allowed himself not to feel his love for her. He didn't need to protect himself as severely to the detriment of both of them. His first response, his impulse of unconditional love, was to call Phil and tell him he was free to visit Alison in the hospital or at home as much as he wanted. Alison was thrilled. Phil could hardly believe Paul changed in attitude. As young lovers' relationship deepened, Paul became more and more welcoming. He realized that Alison's happiness was more important than his protection of her. Something wondrous was happening. As Phil and Alison's love grew, and as Paul was able to express his love by his actions, Alison's immune system went on to a higher gear. Love became a vital medicine in her fight against cancer. 1 week later, Paul returned for the second regression. This time, he was a 19th century woman. His wife, a fisherman, living on the coast of New England. Once again, anxiety and dread filled his life. He's not coming back this time. Who's not coming back? My husband, he goes on these trips. Sometimes it lasts for months, and I'm sure he will return. He has taken these trips before, yes. And came back before, yes. Then why not this time? Because this time he's dead, I can feel it. He took in great gulps of air. My women friends try to cheer me. They have fishermen husbands too, but they can't. I'm going mad with worry. His fear was so palpable that I asked if he wanted to be brought back to the present. He held up his hand. Wait, there's news. He began to wail. The boat capsized. All aboard were lost. I was right. He's dead. My darling is dead. There's no life for me now. The grieving non-England woman quickly sank into depression. She stopped eating, couldn't sleep, and soon died of her heartbreak. Her soul left her body and stayed watching for a long time. The woman had died the week before her husband returned to the town. He had been rescued with two of his mates, and they had to spend their time slowly recuperating in the home of a farmer's widow until they were strong enough to make their way back. The woman Paul's husband in that life was Alison. Okay, so is it okay to read these 6 pages? It may become 7:15. Is that all right? If it is, you let me in the chat box. If it is not okay, then you can read tomorrow. Or those who want to log off can log off, and the others can continue, and the other ones can hear it on the recorded message. So I'm continuing. In the New England's Wife Life Review, a new theme emerged: patience. She saw that if she had waited, not despaired, in effect, not killed herself, she would have been reunited with her husband and been happy. When I brought Paul back, he saw that patience was a missing element in his other life as well. The Paul who had died in an automobile crash had actually found his love again here in this life in his daughter. Knowledge of subsequent lives might have stopped him from drinking, the cause of the crash, and he might have had a fulfilled life while waiting for the return of his beloved. In this life, he realized that he had not inserted himself into Alice's life the way he did. If he had let her be and allowed her to love freely, then her cancer might not even have been as overwhelming. She might have had more energy and more will to fight it. Even now, he thought, it might not be so late. The following week's session began with a progress report. Alison was feeling better. Her doctors were encouraged. All the different approaches, the standard treatment, the holistic approach, Phil's presence and Paul's changed behavior seemed to be working. Paul told me he had hugged Alison the night before fully, wholeheartedly, and told her that he loved her. She responded by hugging him back, saying she loved him too, and burst into tears. What's more, he said, smiling, I even hugged Phil, but I didn't tell him that I loved him. It was a huge moment for him, and he attributed it to regression. He asked me to lead him back again. Several centuries ago, in the ancient culture of India, Paul had a lifetime as a lower caste girl. Alison was Paul's close friend in that life. Though they were not related, she was as closer than any sister. The two were dependent on each other for emotional survival. They shared their thoughts and wishes, joy and pain. Since they were at the bottom of the social ladder, their lives were very hard. But they managed by helping each other every day. And then Paul told me bitterly, Alison fell in love. The young man whom Paul recognized as his own wife, Alison's mother in this life, was of a higher caste. Nevertheless, they had an affair. Paul warned Alison of the dreadful consequences if they got together. Paul said her sister was just as jealous and went around the village boasting of the young man's love for her. The boy's family found out. Alison was murdered by his father for disgracing their caste. The love devastated Paul. He remained bitter, grieving, angry for the rest of his life. As he floated above his body in the past life, Paul could connect that life to the current one and to the lives he remembered from his first two regressions. A recurrent pattern of the dramatic loss of love through death had led to his current fears and protective mechanisms. He had also learned the value of patience in his Indian life too. He had shunned pleasure and joy when they might have been his if he had known that Alison would return not once but many times. There were other lessons as well: the danger of rushing to judgment, the folly of experiencing events without perspective, the sometimes mortal risk of losing control. He was learning to let go of his fears of death and loss. More positively, he grasped the concept of the supreme value of love and its healing effects. Love is an absolute, he understood, and can't be diminished by time or distance. They can be obscured by fear, but its brilliance is never really lessened. Fear closed the mind, love opened the heart and dissolved fear. I wondered aloud about the progress Paul into the future, but we held back for a long time. He and I were both reluctant to look ahead in his current life because he couldn't bear the thoughts of finding out that Alison's cancer would eventually defeat her. And I was concerned his anxiety over Alison's illness would distort his future memories. At last, I decided that looking into a future life, as opposed to seeing ahead in this one, I had no other risks. In the last session together, that's where we went to a future life. It was an unusual progression. Was Paul saw not a continuous narrative, but a series of 3 snapshots, like pictures on a slideshow. The glimpses were vivid, however, filled with strong emotion. He saw himself older in the lifetime, successful, fulfilled, thanks to the fact that his daughter had been cured. He saw Alison alive and well at 67 in the future of her current lifetime. He also saw himself reincarnating as Alison's grandson, being received with love and joy into Alison's future family. When I asked him how far in the future this snapshot was, he said 45 years. I was concerned that this meant Paul's death was imminent in his present life, but he had no problem with that math. I was forgetting that in this instance, time is past, present, future in one. After we'll discuss the progression. Don't the episodes seem to you like wish fulfillment? I asked. Not at all. They could be. Now that you bring it up, I can see why you'd think so, but what I saw wasn't how my imagination works. I've never had visions like these before. They seem very real. Then he himself saw himself as Alice's grandson, gave credence to his beliefs, though in my mind the memories were a little too perfect. Even the Alice and grandson relationship could explain by his intense desire to win her love in the present. Nevertheless, he believed the scenes were real and that was all that mattered. My next life wouldn't have been possible if Alison hadn't been healed. The statement brought me up short. Alison was still very sick. Remissions such as hers can be devastatingly fleeting, and I wondered what would happen to Paul if she died. Perhaps he had truly learned patience, I reflected. Perhaps it would be enough that he knew he would meet her again in future life. There was no reason to shake his equilibrium. He was a different man from self-hating smoothie who had first walked into the office. Besides, maybe what he saw was true. She might not have gotten better without you, I told him. He was startled. What do you mean? For one thing, we chose to allow Alison's boyfriend to visit her free to fall in love. For another, we gave up her control and allowed herself to love her openly and fully, amongst other benefits, including the benefit to you. Her immune system's response to that dual love may have been instrumental in fighting her cancer. I believe it was. Along with the medicine, he said, along with the medicine, but the medicine hadn't worked before you changed. and I changed thanks to you. It felt strange to hear him speak so humbly. I just wanted the important thing to realize that you are exercise the most important of all human attributes. You used your free will. Paul could have chosen to remain stubborn, inflexible. He could have also chosen to decline the past life therapy and then not gain the understood and insights he obtained. But if he'd been close minded, dictatorial, impatient, Allison might not have got into remission. He instead chose the path of courage, the path of love. Over the following months, with Phil and Paul joining the rest of the family at her side, Allison's improvements led to a remission. Her cancer seemed to be gone. Mrs. Pauls had seen in the future life. That life had reassured him in the present. Maybe his optimism and certainty, along with his love, helped her get well. Paul's story demonstrates the essential role that patience plays in our passage towards immortality. Inner peace is impossible without patience. Wisdom requires patience. Spiritual growth implies a mastery of patience. Patience allows unfolding of destiny to proceed at its own unhurried pace. When we are impatient, when we create misery for ourselves and for others, we rush to rash judgments and act without considering the consequences of what we do. Very, very, very important to learn. This is a line that we must reflect and take back. Our choices are forced and incorrect. We are liable to pay a steep price. Paul could have avoided heartache and premature death in the past lives if he had been more patient. It took him time until the century, this time, to understand his present life and all those to come would be more harmonious, more fulfilled if he did not try to push the river of time. So beautiful. Tomorrow we'll read about non-violence. And let's take 2 minutes right now to go absolutely deeper. Today, let's relax with a deep breath in, filling our body with love. With a deep breath out, shake away all the hate that you have. Let it just leave your body. With a deep breath in, bring in love, loving kindness. And remove any things where you have been mean. Remove those memories. Just take them away. We are proud of them. But at least let's relieve those emotions if they're in the body at all. And take a deep breath in and fill your body with patience. And as you exhale, discard the impatient version. Always looking at the time, fidgeting, wondering. Life is so beautiful, so meaningful. Enjoy it. Feel the kindness, feel the empathy rising in you. You're able to connect with somebody else for his or her energy. That's a virtue that one must evolve. Think about every single thing why everyone is given. Life is such a giver. Connect deep inside you. Let yourself flow in this world of magic. Dear light beings, our masters, ancestors, guide each of us in what you think is a lesson that we need to learn today in this morning, on our own, in our own sweet time. So I will request everybody, if you have time, continue being in this closed eye trance version and wait for the guidances to come. They will come. And if they don't come and you fall into sleep, that's also all right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to see you tomorrow morning at 6. Lots of love and light.